And Bank of America and Goldman Sachs both delivered stronger than expected earnings today for Q4, and there's been other earnings news. For more, we are pleased to once again be joined by Danielle Shay of Simpler Trading and Adam Mesh of Adam Mesh Trading. Thank you both for being here. It's great to see you. We always have such great information. Danielle, I want to start with you. Yesterday on the program reported the news about J.P. Morgan beating expectations big time and Wells Fargo doing better than expected, although it cost them $7 billion in stock buybacks to prop up the stock. But what do you make of the Goldman Sachs and the Bank of America news today?
So, Bart, I think this is absolutely critical to the economy. When we go back and we look at the problems that we've seen in the stock market slide that we saw throughout November and December, one of the major issues that investors were looking at was rising interest rates, right? And at this point, we've now had some of our major banks come out and say, hey, look, guys, we have had some blowout earnings reports. We're not seeing an issue here. We are seeing a strong consumer sector. We're also seeing a strong business segment. And, you know, I think that this honestly is creating a complete switch in trend, especially when you go back and look at the technicals of the charts, the stock movement that we're seeing. I think these reports can take these stocks back into bull territory.
Yeah, good observation. Adam, the other day we explained the New York Stock Exchange ARCA index, the airline index, and how it had taken this really deep dive. And the earnings, you know, and some of the guidance from Delta and American, and then Delta reported, of course, didn't look so good. But United Airlines did pretty well. What do you make of United, Adam?
You know, a year ago, CEO Oscar Munoz came out and said we have a darn good plan. The stock sold off on that news, but a year later, he's been proven right. They increased the cost of their seats, they increased the number of their seats, and they opened more routes than any of their competitors this year. And the results showed numbers that beat across the board with a nice gain in the stock today. So it looks like he had the last laugh.
Yeah, I love looking at these charts, you know, the 5-day charts, because they sort of go along, you know, and then there's whatever news or an earnings report, and then they shoot up or shoot down. They're really demonstrative of what you're saying, Adam. Danielle, Boeing has done fairly well at talking about planes in recent years, but there's been some concern about the trade war and how these aluminum tariffs might impact the manufacturer. But there's some good news out today for Boeing about a new contract with the Air Force. They've got a prominent history, Boeing does, of sort of splitting stocks. I read someplace that like 11 times between the 50s and the 90s they'd split stocks. So how's Boeing going to do in 2019? Are they going to split, or are they going to maybe splat?
So I like Boeing here, honestly. And yes, you're absolutely right. Boeing has been hit by a lot of the tariff wars. But I'm thinking if we can see a resolution with these tariff wars in the next month or two, that can especially have a positive impact on Boeing. I'm looking forward to trade up to about a $420 price point. And, you know, as far as the stock split, yes, Boeing does have a history of stock splits. And if Boeing does have a stock split, that would make me even more bullish, because that would bring down the price for other investors to be able to come in at a lower price and continue pushing up the stock of one of the best airliners out there. So I really like Boeing.
And I'm not intimating anything here, but that Boeing award today, I thought it was interesting. And, you know, Patrick Shanahan, the acting Secretary of Defense, back in the day, worked for Boeing, so I'm sure that doesn't help. I'm not saying anything nefarious whatsoever, but that usually never hurts. Maybe he's recused himself for all I know. Hey, Adam, people love, and I love, to talk about Costco. I love to talk about it because it's really cool and fun, talking about a 27-pound container of macaroni and cheese that they sell that holds 180 servings with a shelf life of like 2 decades or something. But they've also famous for their rotisserie chicken, right? And it's been less than $5 for years. Tell us about Costco's stock. How have they been doing, and how do you think they're going to do going forward, Adam?
So Costco had its worst December that I could remember in a really long time, along with the rest of the stocks. Unlike United Airlines, which raised prices and did well, Costco lowered prices to compete with their competitors, and it didn't pan out so well for them. One thing they are doing is they just bought a chicken farm, which they announced recently. And
there you go, the rotisserie chicken. There you go.
Yeah. So they're going to be able to keep their prices low, which is a good thing. They have such a head start in their demo. So I think Costco should consolidate around here. I'm not a big fan of the stock here, but I wouldn't be shorting it either. Just more of a neutral outlook for the near future. But they're doing some fun things, and the macaroni and cheese is real big amongst the doomsday naysayers.
Yeah, right. You put it in your survival hut. Hey, Adam, are you still big on PayPal?
Look at it. I mean, it just keeps going up. It's still one of the strongest stocks. I'm nervous with everything. This is a really big earnings season we're heading into, so I want to see how these earnings play out for the stocks before I continue with my guidance. But PayPal's been great.
And Danielle, finally, we just got about 30 seconds. Anything you're looking forward to next week with regard to earnings or markets?
So right now, I'm primarily looking for the run into earnings. And I mean, speaking of PayPal, that's actually one of our favorite picks as well for the run into earnings. We're looking at Microsoft and Amazon to continue trading higher into those earnings reports. And then, I mean, we have to see what the companies report in the end. But I am looking for a bullish run into earnings in those tech names.
Well, we hope you'll both come back and enlighten us with your great information and intelligence and fun, too. Danielle Shay and Adam Mesh, thanks to you both.